Line is straight on top of the leg in this position. And there's the compression, okay? You cannot do this on your own, by the way, which is why you need me. Sometimes we have an itch, we just can't scratch. After palm, hit. So now I'm not going to raise the knee so I can get under it. I'm going to block it with my knees, and see how that kind of stabilizes it, keeps it there. The hands go here. This is an exaggerated position, right? Because my wrists are clearly between my elbows. My elbows are exaggerated and flexed out. That's how I put tension on those tendons in my wrist, right? And then I'm going to snap down into the line, right? And if I need to come up to get to this, I do. See, because I want to keep this position of my hands. You see this? So I don't go like this. Because right about here, I've lost the mechanics of the motion completely. Okay? So this is it right here. Okay? Now after I hit, stretch. So let's push that knee more, and then, but as soon as I let go, bring the foot up under the knee, as I'll raise it, and then push the knee all the way forward. Push with both hands, right? Now I adjust, frame the hip. Frame the hip means one knee above the hip, one knee below the hip. Okay, that's what that means. And I'm on a diagonal. Why is that? Because I'm already anticipating as I bring pressure to the leg, I'm going to turn and rotate. Okay, so I'm already kind of halfway there. All right, wrist, let's check. All right, I'm holding it up. Take a breath, hand to shoulder. In, inhale and exhale. 1, halfway, 2, upper arm, 3, inhale. 4, roll out and aim. Now, don't go across. This knee has to aim just outside the ball of the shoulder, okay? And this foot is aiming just outside that shoulder. And let's go ahead and unlock the arms. All right, and rock over. Now, notice as I go, watch that other leg. See how it comes up? Mm-hmm. Also notice that when it first came up, it was relatively stiff, okay? It wasn't just a factor of the leverage. She was actually lifting the leg. So it's not actually entirely a range of motion issue. Okay? That's a little protectiveness, a little defensiveness. Now, I don't make her a bad client because she did that. I just want to observe it. And what I'll do, if I notice that, I can try one of two things. One is I just go to the point where she starts to lift and pause. Okay, and let that be a nice working depth in the motion. The other is I could do this. Come here, I notice she's raising that leg, and I'll go, can you drop this leg? Can you relax it? Good. And then that's where we'll work. Back out into my lunge, and see how I'm in a big lunge. I'm all the way up. This leg is square. Her alignment is this way. My lunge alignment is perpendicular. I've got the foot tight. See, the round part of her ankle is on the top round part of my thigh. And actually, I would finish getting into this position. Can I do this? By locking the big toe with a pistol grip and then locking that foot to my ribs right here. This is actually the end of that position. That's the release. Okay, and then this is the beginning of the next technique. All right, good. All right, you're up. Let's do it one more time. This time I'm just going to run through it. Now, I want to make a point about this. Okay, this, okay, those are all protective patterns. They're all protective postures. this, 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 okay? And what's happening is, in anticipation of the stress of the posture, what the client does is they shift the polarity and shift their consciousness to a different part of their body. It's a way of not being present to the stress of the posture, all right? You want to be aware of this. It's not a bad thing. Everybody does it at one time or another. Everybody does it at some time or another. But as a therapist, I want you to get directly what I'm doing. So when I see you go into a guarding posture of any kind, and you might say, well, I always like to lay like this. And I would say, yeah, you always like to lay in such a fashion that you're guarding and protecting. Yeah, okay, cool. That's just the way you feel comfortable laying is you know, and that's okay, you know, that's what works for you, all right? But we're now in a therapeutic situation. So when I see you going into guarding and defensive reflexes, I'll always short circuit it. I always pull the hand out to a neutral position. See, that's the thing about Savasana, right? Every time, you know, how many people here teach yoga at all, okay, and who've led some Savasana and whatnot? See, one of the things that you want to do is you want to get people uncrossed. You want to get them uncrossed. You don't want them to be like this, and with the hands behind the head and the feet crossed. This is not Savasana, is it? Right? Okay? That's all guarding and protective, and it's a polarity thing, right? So, of course, I'm going to uncross your feet. I'm going to get you to move your hand. Like, you know, you say, well, when I lay down, I like to keep my arms crossed over my chest. Well, but you can't do Savasana in this position, right? To get the full benefit of Savasana, you have to be in a neutral position with no guarding reflexes. So if the client keeps spontaneously going into these little postures, I am, the whole time I'm working, I'm flicking that hand, pulling that hand out, uncrossing those ankles and whatnot. And I might find I do that like a dozen times or dozens of times during a session, because it's their natural way of being is to be in a protective state, okay, one way or another, to some degree or another. All right, so we start here, we're in Sao Nam. Anywhere I see tension, see, for example, when I picked up this knee, did you catch the adjustment in this leg? Okay, where she brought it in, okay? Well, why is that? Well, because I'm a dude, and I just picked her leg up, hey, baby, and, you know, I'm getting some inadvertent access to her naughty bits, okay? And so if she has any history whatsoever of any kind of trauma or emotional or sexual abuse, the natural inclination is anybody who just starts to just pick up a leg and starts to create this opening one way or the other, the natural reflex is to protect it, is to guard it. And so this leg will come in, there'll be this little collapsing in here, which is a guarding and protective emotion. It's a posture, but it's emotional, and it's on that continuum of micro emotions I was talking about. If you weren't paying attention, you probably didn't even catch it, okay? It's spontaneous, it's mechanical, there's no thought involved, okay? It's virtually on the level of almost an instinctive reflex, right? But again, I'm a trained therapist. I keep a soft focus the whole time I'm working on someone. And even though it's class, I'm still hypervigilant for those little cues, because they tell me the reality of what's actually going on in her emotions while I'm working. So having noticed that, that's why I did this before I did this. Because what I want to do is anywhere I notice the client going into a guarding and protective reflex while I'm working, if I can do a little adjustment to release that tension, to release that energy, there's a cumulative effect of that over the session, all right? Not picking on you, but that's just how it is, all right? So up we go, and then here's the Sao Nam, right? And then I'm going to come up with my hip, bring this heel nice and tight. See, because when I was in Sao Nam, I wanted this space here, so I had some leverage, right? But to go into Dak Kha, when I come up here, first thing I'm going to do is see how tight will the heel go to the bottom. And actually, the closer the heel is to the bottom here, the safer this position is. The more open this is, the more leverage is against the knee when you go outside. So you want to have this heel as tight to the bottom as it'll comfortably go. And then from there, just go slightly outside. Okay? Just slightly outside. Some people will be very tight in this position. If you're working on someone who's very tight in this position, it's actually, once you're here, it's actually okay to get down here with both hands and pull this out a little bit. Okay? Don't struggle with it just trying to do it with one hand. If you have to do it, get over here like this with both hands. All right? And I've even done it like this, where I had to pull it out here and then actually see what my forearm is doing in order to keep that contact and bring them into position, right? Now, notice that this is collapsed over just a little bit, all right? I want to do one of two things. Either I release this leg, and see now they're not over each other, okay? But I could also bring this out just a little bit, okay? There are actually two acceptable corrections for this collapsing position. Now, 2-finger pressure here. I'm out. Oh, daylight, right there. So that's where I come back under, just to contact. Like, just because I left her here doesn't mean I come all the way back up under here, right? I'm doing this on purpose in that I want to see where, right, that's it. Right there is the functional bottom. So that's where I come under and make contact. Brace and lock right there. See how this arm is locked out?
What
Okay.
if it's halfway between so that it's like your knee can't get under?
Bump right up against it.
Just bump against it.
Yeah, because watch this. Let's pretend. What if it's halfway between and I can't really get my knee under? Okay, that's what she asked. That happens sometimes, right? It's below the top of the knee, but still not on the floor. But watch what happens. If I lock right there, make contact with the front of my knee. Now, kind of forget this for a second and watch up there, and you'll see I still get the lock, okay, because I raise up into it. Now here, palm press, come under and just make contact with both knees, all right, hack, and stretch and release. Don't hold it. Don't go stretch and hold the 5. It's stretch and release. Bring that heel right up under the knee and push up into this position. Frame the hip. Bring the foot up. See, I like this at about 90 degrees. Hand to shoulder. Now, the reason I say hand to shoulder is I don't want to automatically completely collapse on top of the leg, okay? What I want is more pressure on my shoulder as I come over. 1, 2, good, 3, roll out, and I'll back up a little bit so I can stand up all the way, aim, take a nice breath, and fall. Back up. So I'm supporting that knee.